So if you're looking to record your guitar and amp in a way that is conducive to doing it at home, whether you're in an apartment or a house and you've got other people around, you can't make too much noise, but you still want to get the most out of your amps. The best way I've found now, after spending 2 years exclusively recording with microphones in a loud environment and having a change of circumstance myself, is that you're going to have to find a way of recording directly out and using what's called an IR. Now I'm going to explain all of this in quick and sort of basic way so you can just get started, but I found since the last couple of weeks when I've been using this sort of setup, it's really liberating and makes recording a much quicker and more enjoyable experience. Because to be honest with you, using microphones is great. I think the best potential sound would come from a real sound engineer who knows what they're doing in a room that's set up for it. And myself, I've got some really nice recordings over the last couple of years, but it's a bit more hit and miss unless you do it all the time. So I'm going to show you what you're going to need. In general terms, there's loads of different products out there that you can look into in different price points. And I'm going to show you how I use the IR, what software I'm using, and we'll do a couple of samples of different recordings so you can see exactly how it works. Right, let's go for it. So you've got your guitar, you've got your amp of choice all ready and set up. Now in a normal situation, I would be grabbing some mics, like for example, here I've got a ribbon mic and you probably can't see it, but also in there is an SM57, which is a very common microphone. And you might also have some room microphones around, and you've got to find the space to set all these things up. You've got to put the amp in a place where it records best in the room, and then you've got to play out loud with, you know, something like 100-watt 2-rock. It's probably going to be too loud for a lot of situations. In fact, this little, well, not little, but this 35-watt combo here could be very loud too. And what you're going to need to do is record in a way that's silent. And you're going to need some way of doing that. So at the back of your amp, you're going to find where the speaker cable normally goes in. So in this amp, the speaker cable, which you've just seen fall through the back there, normally plugs in here from the speakers. You're going to take that out and you're going to have a speaker cable. And then that is going to go into some sort of box which is going to allow you to record out. Now, there are different solutions for this. If you have what's called a universal audio aux box, then it makes your life very simple because it actually has all the IRs and everything built in. And although it's not as flexible as using an IR loader and choosing your own IRs, it's plug and play. I don't have one of those anymore. I used to, but it wasn't the best attenuator, and I wanted an attenuator that was fantastic. So I got the Power Station by Fryette. Now the way this works is that speaker cable that came out of the back of the amp that I plugged in goes to the amp in. You make sure you've got the correct ohms for your speaker and your amp. And then you have a couple of options, and a lot of these boxes will have this. You can either use an XLR cable into what's known as a balanced out, or you have outs which go from here, which are unbalanced and have their own line level here. Either way, whichever you use is fine. It's just going to mean a different input needed on your sort of preamps, which I'm about to show you. Okay, so this is my Apollo 8XP. It's a pretty high-end preamp system, which has lots of inputs and various ways of using it. It also allows you to use lots of plugins from Apollo. But there are so many different ones ranging from probably $100, you know, under £100 all the way up to this and beyond. And whichever one you have is fine. There's going to be some difference in audio quality, but you know, as you work your way along and potentially get new gear, you'll improve that anyway. But that cable you saw coming out of the Power Station is going to go into your preamp. Okay, if it has an input, it should accept it. Before you buy your preamp, make sure that it will accept the direct line, and it should do. So then you're going to be in your DAW here. Now I'm using a Mac, and I use Logic Pro. And in a minute, I'm going to show you what happens if you record direct in and don't use an IR. That's an impulse response. And essentially, it's a cabinet simulation. If you don't use a cabinet simulation, it's going to sound quite odd. So you just have to take it as read that you're going to need something like this. Now, what's great about this is software that you can use to create these IRs is really not so expensive. I got this one, MixIR3, along with a few packages that give loads of different speaker options and microphone options, and it cost me about $150. So what I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm going to show you what this sounds like if I record without using an IR, and then I'm going to go into show you, essentially how simple this is and the sort of options you have to tweak what sound is going to come out. Okay, so you're going to see me playing a Les Paul into that Rift Ainsley Lister amp. And first of all, you're going to hear it with no IRs, no plugins of any sort. So you're going to hear that that just doesn't sound right. Then we're going to turn on the IR, which I'm going to show you exactly what that is. And then you're also going to hear it with what's like a space designer, which is basically allows you to create more of a room sound. I've gone for realistic room. And then you're also going to hear it with a Silververb, which is a reverb plugin that really just stops it being too dry and gives you more of the reverberations that you'd get in a real room that come back in a recording for the room mics and things like that. So let's hear through the same clip with those things sort of added in and out, and then we're going to play around with some IRs. Okay, so hopefully you heard through that how as I added the IR, then the couple of plugins, that really improved the sound, and you can create a feeling of space and like there's a real room there as opposed to a sterile recording. It really depends what you're recording for. If you're sort of doing a big multi-track thing, you might not want too much reverb in each track, but it's really quick and easy to figure out. What I'm going to do now to show you how powerful these IRs are and how much you can play around with it, we'll use that same clip, but I'll do there'll be a bunch of different cabinets and microphone options and distances from the microphone, just over a few minutes, and maybe it'll give you an idea whether you want to buy this particular IR loader. It's the only one I've used. I'm not affiliated with it. I don't get anything from it. So it's just to show you this one, but it was recommended by Record Like a Pro. Is that what he's called? I think so. There's a guy I watch sometimes on YouTube who's really good, obviously, at recording. And this is an article he wrote recommending some IR loaders, and this one was in there. Right, so let's have some fun with microphones and cabinets for a minute, and I'll see you again in a sec. So that first one you heard was this V30s with an SM57 and the C414, which were set like that for the SM57 and this for the C414. How about we change it so that we only have a ribbon mic? We'll use an R121, and I'll pull it back a little bit but keep it in the middle, and let's see what that sounds like. Change it to a Bassman with P10Q speakers. We're going to have an SM57, and we're going to also have a Royer R121, and I use these sliders. They sort of pull back on the volume on here. The R121, I'm going to pull back to give it more of that. So the closer you are to the actual speaker, the more direct of a sound. As you pull back, you'll get a bit more space and air and feeling of room. In this last one, we're going for a Deluxe Reverb, so you can literally see a Deluxe Reverb like there was a VOX, and this on the previous one, and then this is the SM57, and this is the Royer pulled back a little bit. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. As I said somewhere along there, you can find all those clips again at the end without any talking in between, so you can just hear the differences a bit more closely. And as you can see with these IR loaders, there are quite a few options in there. You could have a couple of different companies' versions of IR loaders who might have different things going on there. And some of the speaker companies like Celestion have their own IRs as well. If you think I've missed out anything fundamental, let me know down in the comments and I can add it into another video. I'm planning on doing something similar to this, but comparing some real microphone recording to the IRs in the next one, so we can get a feel for what it really is doing that's different or similar and how good these IRs now are. I've got to say, overall, using IRs has simplified my process, allowed me to get videos out more quickly, feel a bit more creative. I'm not worrying about getting cables around the room and where the microphones are, and have I accidentally knocked a microphone in between each clip, and there's all sorts of things like that when you're working by yourself. So if you're by yourself, this is a great way to do it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that, and lastly, we're very nearly at the point of doing my next giveaway when I hit 7,500 subs. So if you've not subbed to this channel, you just need to sub and write a comment somewhere on this video, and when I hit 7,500, which should be maybe in a week or less, hopefully, if things go well, I'll send this anywhere in the world. I'll pick a name out of the hat from all my subs who've commented. All right, enjoy those last few clips if you want to hear the differences, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.